Rock City Networks and The Push coming to you from Face the Music 2010. We're here at the Arts Centre in Melbourne, and joining me is Tarek. How are you, mate? Or T-Rek.
T-Rek,
as other people know, and also from Rubber Records.
Also from Rubber Records, yes.
How are you, mate?
I'm well. I've been sitting on stage talking for an hour. Like you, I could use a beer, but I'll probably just make do with coffee.
Yeah, coffee's the way to go, I think. Now, let's tell us a little bit about yourself if people don't know who you are and
Sure.
and your role at Rubber as well.
I've been affiliated with Rubber Records for I think about 13 years. Originally a band that I was a drummer in, signed to Rubber Records in the late 90s. We did a couple of albums and subsequently split up. I then signed to Rubber's publishing kind of division, which is a part of Sony Music. And so I've had a long-standing relationship with David Vodka, who owns Rubber Records, and who's walking past over here. And I've continued, and then sort of in the last sort of 8 or 9 years, I've started releasing records under my own name, or T-Rek, through Rubber Records, and also through my own label, Freak Show Disco Productions, which sort of runs in conjunction with Rubber.
Yeah.
So.
Excellent. Now, let's have a chat about the panel discussion you just came out of.
Yeah.
So we're talking to David before he went in, and now you've come out of the discussion. It'd be interesting to see two points of view of that, and it was on the Kookaburra case.
Yeah, do you want me to explain what the
yeah.
case is about? I've had it explained to me about 5 times. Is this in the context that people know what the Kookaburra case is?
Well, I mean, most people would in Australia,
Okay.
yes, but for anyone else watching?
Look, I found it interesting. I knew the bare bones of the case and how it had worked, and I obviously got much more insight just from sitting there surrounded by lawyers and hearing, more about the specific numbers and the reasoning behind the judge's decision and just the legalities of it in general. I've always kind of agreed with the decision for Larrikin Publishing to be awarded a percentage. I just didn't know what the percentage was or how far back it stretched as far as royalties from the song. Apparently it's 5% and it's only stretching back 7 years and for future royalties. So, which I think is pretty reasonable. We just talked about a bunch of different things. Stuff I brought to it from my perspective was, as a musician, I know what it's like to sometimes accidentally almost kind of lift something from someone else's music. Thankfully for me, it's only been, maybe like a little drum fill or something, not that people would pick up. But so I don't think there was any, there could have been no intent. I thought that maybe they'd accidentally kind of, done that flute riff, and it sounded like the song. But apparently it's been well documented that they used to announce it on stage, and it was very much, part of the song.
So it was well premeditated.
Yeah, because all the references in the song
Sure.
to Australiana and that was sort of another part of it. But there's a lot of interesting things, and it is as much as the type of case that it is fairly common, but the specifics in it really make it quite an interesting case. Everything from the chief songwriter, Colin Hay, didn't even write that part. It was the flautist who just happened to play on the record and stuff, who doesn't even have a writing credit. So a lot of very strange sort of things like that. But I got to say personally, I think that if you replicate someone's music, it's fair that you get a royalty. And I'm someone that gets around sampling people's music constantly. But I try to use sampling in such a way that even most of the people that I sample, if they heard the song, they probably wouldn't pick it. It's sort of buried. And it's the way you present samples and contextualize or recontextualize them and stuff. So yeah. So what?
It's one of those cases you could just talk about forever, really. Even though you came to a final decision on it,
it's funny that you said that.
It's a debatable subject.
But it's funny you said that, and because the first two lawyers that spoke, kind of, and we were kind of not even 5-10 minutes deep into it. And I'm like, I was thinking, this is going to be kind of, a bunch of lawyers really saying the same thing over and over again. But the deeper we got into it, the more interesting it became. It's like, yeah, there are a lot of real specifics to it, and the reason being is that this whole thing is such a grey area, and I guess anywhere where you've got a massive sort of grey area, there's just so many variables, or that you could discuss and debate and voice different opinions forever. So Yeah, I'm actually really interested. I want to go home and read even more about it.
Go read up a bit about it. Now, I guess like you were saying, with your sampling and your music and so forth, did that bring any light to anything you didn't know, having that discussion, or are you pretty much on top of it, doing what you've done for so long?
It reaffirmed a lot of things that I've, sort of patterns of thinking and ways of doing things that I've established over the last. It's been about 13 years or something that I've been doing electronic music. I was just doing more organic-based music before that. Without getting too far into it, I've sort of got all my own theories on it. It reaffirmed a lot of things that I kind of worked out in my head, which is, it's hard to explain without getting too kind of carried away, but there's just so many...
Get carried away.
Get carried away. Look, when I sample something, I generally don't make it integral to the song. Or if I do make it integral to the song, it's usually like maybe a little piece of electronic dance music that I think I'll probably play in the clubs, and maybe I'll put it out through the there's a thing called Beatport, which is like iTunes for DJs. Maybe I'll put it up there, kind of thing, and even if it was kind of a hit record, it'd probably only sell a few thousand copies. And the thing I've always thought was, for something kind of small like that, for really just a few thousand copies, it might seem to me like I've had a popular record, and to my friends that I've had a popular record, but in the grand scheme of things, you can kind of, most people aren't going to notice. The other thing is, if someone ever did call me on something I'd sampled and said, hey, or we want a royalty for that, or we want you to remove that, or we want you to take that song off the market, which are all the things that they are more than able to do, I wouldn't have a problem with that. It's like I kind of know the risk going in, that I may have to share a royalty, but so it just reaffirmed a lot of things like that. One of the interesting things was, if you either recreate a piece of someone's music, like they did with the case we're talking about, or sampling, which is actually digitally sampling some recording of someone else's work, if you don't get permission, the person whose work you sample or recreate can basically, they can dictate terms. So they can say, we want a royalty, they can dictate the amount of royalty that they want, or they can tell you to take it off the market. If it's on CDs, they can say, we want all the CDs taken off the shelves. They can do that. And I've always known that. But I was actually asking David I said, well, what if because, there's the blogosphere and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of electronic music with samples gets popular online. I said, what if I make a track and blatantly sample someone's song? And all I do is I give it to a couple of mates as an MP3, and one of them sticks it up on a blog, and all of a sudden, it gets 50,000 downloads, which does happen. I'm not selling it, so I'm not liable for a royalty, but am I still liable? And apparently you are, and you could get sued for defamation or whatever, but, people would have to feel very hardly done by it. But we were just starting to get into that, and we went off into another area, but I do actually want to ask him, the guy behind the camera, more about that, because it seems insane to me. It's like, fair enough, if I sample someone's music and go out and have a hit record with it,
and promote it and push it and do all the things to actually get it.
Yeah, but if I, what if I just made it at home and kept it to myself, like I do with a lot of these things that I do, and one of my friends accidentally, I don't know, I've been drinking at a gig and I leave the CD out, and he happens to get it, and he sends it to his mate and gets copied a couple of times, pops up on a blog, 50,000 downloads, and all of a sudden someone's chasing me for defamation. It's a it's a far-fetched idea, but then there's so many of the ideas that happen with the Larrikin case and the Kookaburra song are pretty far-fetched as well. So it's interesting, to think that you could just do something at home by yourself and that you could end up,
And then I guess you've got to see the other side of the coin of it as well. I mean, I totally agree with you there, but what if it was, let's reverse the roles and say it was something that was sampled from your work, and somebody had left it at a party and it was getting hits. What would you do if you're in the opposite position?
Well, I was actually able to use that reference, strangely. There's a thing called, are you familiar with SoundCloud?
Yep.
Which is, there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on there. I've had an account on SoundCloud for about a year and giving some of my music away. But I haven't sort of looked at a lot of other people's music or downloaded from there. I'm really just using it to put my stuff out. And just like by chance the other night, I just thought, I'll punch my own name in there and see what happens. And I found about 25 different, mashups and bootlegs and versions of a song that I put out earlier this year that was, relatively successful. So, I do actually know what that's like, and I downloaded them all. I've only listened to a couple of them, but
Any
most
good
of them
ones?
use them. Not from what I've heard so far, but usually the good ones kind of go through the filter of my friends. My friends find them and shoot them to me. And that's quite fine, that people are doing that. There's 20 of them, and I haven't listened to them all yet, but I can pretty much guarantee I'll probably hate most. but I mean, if people were trying to put those out on CDs and sell them and make money from them, I'd be very kind of pissed off. But I would hope that they had the same attitude as me, as I said before. Like if I sample someone,
you're going into it.
I know I'm going into it, and if they have a go at me, I'll take it away. But the way these guys are doing it is more mashups. They're taking huge, great chunks of my song and kind of just putting other little bits over the top, or whereas I kind of use very small bits of people's things and stuff. Or if I am doing something like that where I'm taking a big chunk of someone's song, I don't put it out anywhere. So
yeah, fair enough.
It's this whole kind of world, and I think it's an art form. I think sampling is an art form. Like a friend of mine used to reference, when a DJ who I started out doing this stuff with used to reference an INXS album, which was Listen Like Thieves, because he reckoned that's what we did. We listen like thieves. We're always sort of waiting for a drum break or some little vocal thing to kind of pop. Oh, we can steal that and put it into something else. So I think it's an art form. Like sampling, when it's done well, like anything, is an art form, and when it's not, it's just ripping people off.
Yeah,
so.
Fair enough. Now, what's coming up? Have you got any projects coming up? Anything else that we can?
Yeah, a lot of projects coming up. I'm doing an EP of T-Rek material, which is not dance music. It's just straight kind of. Well, there's nothing straight about it, but it's not dance music. Through Rubber Records, which is going to come out in the next month or so, kind of right around Christmas. And then at the same time, I'm just sort of halfway through an album which is sort of half kind of this club rock music that I do, and half kind of more straight rock music, which is actually coming out on Ministry of Sound early next year. I think in about April or May or something. So and just doing a lot of live shows with my T-Rek live shows. So we're doing Big Day Out and Good Vibrations and all that kind of stuff. Summer days, I think. So.
A heavy summer coming up, my friend.
I hope so, yeah. A lot of work, though. A lot of music
well,
to be made, which means I've got to lock myself in a dark room when it's on sunny days, which I'm not looking at.
If it was easy work, everyone would be doing it. We wouldn't be here.
That's it.
That's it.
I've still got to get a real job. So.
Me and you both, my friend. Me and you both. On that note, I'll let you go, mates. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Tarek joining me here on the couch here at the Arts Centre in Melbourne. It's for Rock City Networks and The Push for Face the Music 2010.